So, leading straight on from our previous tutorial, I think what we're going to do in this one is we'll just start adding a little bit more detail into what we were doing previously, and we'll work it up from there. One of the things that we've got here that's actually going to be quite useful is the fact that we can control the width of this section. Now obviously the trigger guard is going to be quite thin, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to scale the width of this item right the way down to about as thin as I would have the trigger guard. Boom. And again, I'll make sure in this viewport that we've got it lined up along the center. And I'm going to take all of these sections here and all of these sections, and I think probably this one as well. You see, that was a mistake. Let's just go for these. Let's just do it this way. What I don't want is I don't want the tops, because what I'm going to do is an extrude. So I should have been more careful before. Let's just check this model. Make sure we haven't got any extra faces selected. Right, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to come out along here. And I'll come out at least once. And probably twice. What I'll do is I'll come out so that I'm kind of in line with the rest of the rifle. I think possibly what I'm going to do is this second piece I'll come in slightly. Click OK. And what I'll also do is I'll take the magazine and I'll make the magazine ever so slightly I'll make the object this object ever so slightly less wide. So there we go, we'll scale that down. And that means that we may also revisit this section and add a little bit of a recess in there to accommodate the magazine. But we can come back and look at that later on. Okay, so what we've got there is we've got our section for the trigger guard. But what this is also going to do is this is also going to give us a really neat way of just being able to sort of scale some of these vertices inwards. So something I haven't done here is I haven't applied my material yet. So let's drag my materials editor over, apply my standard grey. And if we want to, we'll do the hidden line thing. There we go. So what we want to start doing now is adding a little bit of extra detail in. And I think what I'll probably do is I'll start by putting this sort of bevel here on the top edges. So I'll select that. We'll start with loop and we'll see how far we go. Actually, loop's given us a very good result. I think such a good result that what I'm going to do is select that edge, do a ring all the way around, split it, and then I'm just going to delete half this face. I'm being a little bit lazy here because what we're going to end up doing is using the symmetry modifier. So I'll work on one side at a time. Okay. So there's all the edges. Let's do the loop. And then we'll start with doing at least one chamfer on there. And we'll have a look at that. And really, that's not giving us a great result, is it? It's not going to win any prizes. So we'll come back, we'll look at what we've got here, and I'll select one of these edges, and we'll do a ring selection. It's fine, it doesn't matter if we go all the way through there. And I'm going to connect those. Let's have a look. I'm not massively impressed with that. So we'll just briefly come up to full screen, and I think I'll use my cut tool, and I'm really just going to follow some of the edges here. Let's try and get this straight, shall we? Save ourselves some problems later on. That's good. So that should help there slightly at least. Now let's try and do this again. We might have to do another one. We'll have to see. So we'll then do an extrude, and let's just do a smooth and highlights. I am really not very impressed with that again. So work this a little bit further. Select our edge. Do another ring selection and a connect, and we'll slide this across. So what we're doing is we're creating a section here for that chamfer to take place on. Otherwise the polygons were far too long around here. It was nowhere near good enough. So we'll do that. And again we'll go back and we'll try this, and we'll do a chamfer. And again, that looks really rather quite horrible. Okay, well that's all very, very unfortunate. I mean, this really does show the sort of the backwards and forwards that you can go through in your modelling to try and get the right result. Just pull some of these up. So what we're going for now is we're just saying, right, I want a smaller edge as possible, so that we've got a nice tight corner there. I'll briefly come to full screen, loop that, and again, we'll try our chamfer. Oh, this is appallingly bad. Look at that again. No, this just won't do at all. Okay, I've just spent a few moments having a look at that, and I think what I'm going to do is quite simply take that edge. Let's just go back here a second. We'll isolate this to get a better view of it. Actually, let's just go back another few stages because I want those end caps on there. Okay, there we go, end cap. Oh, that's going to be irritating later on, never mind. I'm just going to delete that line. And then I'll select that edge, and I'll loop both of them. And I'll just bridge across the gap. There we go. Okay. Not the most ideal of solutions, I'll grant you, but it's worked. Border edge, let's just cap this off. Don't like open ends. ridge border. There we go. Cap that off again. Bosh, job done. Right. So a little bit of a strange one. I'm not quite sure why we got that result, but there you go. What I'm going to do as well is we'll take the edge here and we'll do a ring selection, and we'll connect all of them down the middle. Yeah, that's great. Let's briefly come to my edge here. Do that, and then we'll try doing a bit of a chamfer on there as well. So we'll just do the chamfer. There we go. That's all I wanted to do. Nothing desperate, just have a nice edge on that. Painful that was. Much more painful than it should have been. We're just going to auto smooth everything here. And there you go. Got our edges to all look nice. Now, something I've just noticed is that looks really rather quite horrible. We're going to need to sort this edge out as well, aren't we? So let's start putting in some chamfers on our edges. See, why can't everything be as easy to do as that? We're going to have to sort that fellow out, but we'll do that in a minute. Double chamfer on him, that's good. And never use a laser mouse because it jumps all over the place. Great way of just sorting out problems like this. If you're not bothered about the amount of polygons that you're going to put into an object, just hit cap. What will happen, and we'll just take a quick look at this briefly, we'll show edges only, is you'll get something like this happen. So if you're really being fussy about your edges, you can go in and just turn them so that they end up looking more like that. And that can be a lot more conducive to having a better made mesh. And I'd recommend, if you've got the time, to go through and do that. So let's just take the object properties off that. There we go. So we started to soften that edge up, which is good. And coming out of isolation mode,